I know that we are a lot of people in this room, and I also know that there are a lot of people in the room next door. And we've realized, we've heard in the break, that you in the other auditorium are not able to ask questions. So please come and see us after when we're done with the session. It's easier for you in here to ask questions, but for your colleagues next door, of course, we can't see them and we can't hear them. So yes, you're all invited to ask questions afterwards. We will try to find a solution to this problem. Next time we will all be together and you have collective information. Yes, and then I'll hand it over to you, Melanie.
Yeah, thank you. So good to see so many back of you. Before we go on with some of the last administrative tasks, with what will happen in the next weeks, I would like to elaborate a little bit more on why is it that you're taking this course? Why is this an obligatory course for all of you? And I would like to ask you first to think about or imagine yourself in 2 years' time when you've finished this course, you've finished your other courses, you're graduating from DTU with your master's degree, and you are in your first job interview or second job interview for a job. What would the CEO like to see? Why would the CEO hire you? What would be the aim of hiring you for their company? Any thoughts? What would be the thoughts? What would you, if you were a CEO, what would you like to see in a student, in a future employee? Would they like to see a pretty face in their organizational structure, or why would they hire you? Why would they hire a student from DTU who's done a technical course? Yeah.
The CEO wants to know if we can fit into the company, if we can contribute to the workplace.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. And what does that mean, to fit into the company? What does that include? Fitting with the other employees, I suppose? Yeah? I'm guessing the CEO won't be working with you that much, so how will the CEO, why would they be happy? What would make them say yes to you, to hiring you? Yeah.
They would need to know that you're competent enough to handle company matters.
What company matters would that be?
Basically problems that arise, like if an strategy changes and
yeah? Yeah? Thank you. So it's competence so that you can they can trust you to do the job that you're hired to do. And what is the ultimate aim of that? What are they trying to do for their own organization by hiring you? Who's that? Sorry? We need for streaming microphone.
To raise the value of the firm?
Yeah. That's correct. Yeah, that's sort of what I'm aiming for. And what we call that in the business world, what we management people call that, is to increase the competitive advantage of the company, to increase their value in comparison to the competitors. And how do we analyze competitive advantage? I'm not actually looking for answers right now. That's something you will, or one of the many things you will learn in this course, because there have been a lot of very bright minds in decades and decades of management research who've been looking at these sorts of questions. How do we create value in a company? What is competitive value? And one of the models that came up with that is one of the core models in the TEMO course we have here is the 4 factors of competitive advantage. So you, as a Master of Science from DTU, can either increase the efficiency, so reduce the resources that are used by creating whatever the company is creating, or you increase the flexibility and the speed that the company can put things to market with. You're actually really trained at developing new technologies really fast so that you're have the first mover advantage. Or you are the one that can build really close contact with customers. So you're the one that binds customers to your company. You're the ones that can build long-term, long-lasting relationships with customer companies. Or you're the one that actually can create really high-quality products. So you differentiate yourself through the quality of your offering. So these are some of the things. This is one of the models that we would expect you to do, we would expect you to use when it comes to what is the competitive advantage, or a question of what is the competitive advantage of that specific company in comparison to other companies. These are 4 of the factors we would expect you to have something to say about. Okay? And this links a company to its external environment. This says this is how our company compares to our other competitors. This is how it links to the market environment within Denmark, within Scandinavia, within the global technological market. But how do we actually create that competitive advantage? And there's another core model that we will use in the course, and you will see that quite frequently in the course because that is one of the core models that we use. That's the so-called STAR model. And the STAR model then links, as you can see at the top, it links the external environment and what are our competitors doing, what are our customers wanting, what are other market developments, etc., that we have from the external environment right now. How do we translate that into internal organization? So how do we translate that into a strategy? Where do we position ourselves? Where do we see the competitive advantage with regard to the 4 factors we just mentioned? Then how do we actually translate that on the shop floor? What type of people do we need? Are you actually needed to fit in? That's exactly where the CEO would consider what type of people they would hire, that they would rather hire somebody who graduated from DTU with a lot of technological knowledge than somebody from CBS, for example. And what this model says to you is that it isn't that easy. It isn't just, well, we just hire the right people and then the right thing will come out at the end. And that's exactly a lot of the things that you will be looking at in this course. So it is not just about creating everybody in different departments, letting them work together and then hoping that the best comes out, which are structural concerns. It is also about how do people communicate, who is allowed to make what decision, what communication rules have to be followed, when do certain decisions have to be made, how much information is needed, and so forth. So there are some process considerations. Then one of the things that is very frequently forgotten by a lot of specifically technology companies is how do we actually motivate our people? A lot of technologically oriented companies just think, well, our people are oriented or are motivated just by working with technology, which might be correct, but if you're doing the same thing over and over again, that might not motivate you. And there are a lot of motivation theories that look at what actually motivates you. What do you need to do? What differences in job tasks do you have? And how does that motivate you? And then in the end, what sort of people skills do we need? Is it enough to have loads of different technologically versatile people in our organization, or do we need some managers? Do we need some administrators? Do we need some people with people skills who can actually work with customers and may not know so much about technology? So these are some of the considerations that a CEO will certainly have, your line manager will certainly have, and at some point when you become a line manager and when you become a higher level manager, which is something you're very likely to do with a master's degree, that you will need to do. And this is why we're having the course, so that at the point when you are actually in your, when you're in an organization, you're working and you're facing a problem with that people are not motivated, you can look back at your TEMO notes and say, how do I motivate them? What do I need to consider? What sort of actions can I take in order to motivate people, for example? Also some of the other points. Yeah.
Next week we have a guest from Boston Consulting Group, and he used to have TEMO when he was here. You might be interested in asking him questions about has he applied TEMO or how he has applied it and what benefits has he gained from attending this course. at least he would like to get back here and tell you about how he works with case analysis and improve the business in other companies as a consultant. So that's also a way to see that an example of how TEMO actually has an implication on your future career.
Yeah. Do we have questions or comments for that? No? Okay. And then one of the things that I wanted to put in here, because it is so important for you when you go out more or less in the first years after you graduate, because you will likely to have some form of management role. You will be very likely to have some people dependent on you who you need to manage, who you need to encourage to actually do their tasks. And one of the models we have to do that actually defines what is it that you need to do, what does it mean to manage somebody, is the 4 functions of management. And that is yet again another model that you will be working with quite a bit in this course. So you're not just there to actually plan activities and then tell people this is what you do, and at the end of the day or after a month ask them again, so where are we? Planning is one of them. Organizing is another one, to actually setting the context for other people achieving their goals. Another one is leading, and that again includes how to motivate people, how to keep them on the ball, how to encourage them to also bring themselves and their own ideas into their tasks and into the roles. And the last one is controlling, is actually establishing to what level they need to fulfill their roles and when they might be punished or when they actually have achieved them. Sometimes good is good enough. It doesn't need to be perfect. And a manager needs to decide where we put different roles or where we put different resources in order to achieve our goals. These are just 3 of the models. And as Christina said, they are summarized in the toolbox. The toolbox is a nice overview that you can use when you specifically study for the individual exam, because it is a nice collection of the main tools that we will be using and how they fit, partly how they fit together and what the content is of that. But the books that are part of the course will explain them in much, much more detail, what we explained. And the cases are there for you to put these models into context. So what we would like to see in the case analysis is actually, great, these are the 4 functions of management, but how are they fulfilled in each of the 4 cases, or in the case that you're looking at? How does the specific person that is managing there fulfilling the roles or not fulfilling the functions? Any more questions towards that? It will hopefully become clearer as we move through the course, but I think I'm handing over again to Christina now.
Yeah, it's on. Thanks. So that was a brief introduction about some of the core models and theories in the course. Now we'll get back to a central part of this course, and that is working in groups. So you have the individual work where you study and you plan for your examination. And then you also have the group work where you work together to solve the problems that you read about in the cases. You have 4 cases. One is called soft performance in a software company, a small one, startup, and now been on the market for some years and experiencing different issues. There's Humantech that have changed their strategy, but people are not behaving in the way that they're supposed to do, so they don't get the benefits and the value creation. You have the continuous lock, which is about a manufacturing company which decide to, or is thinking about setting up a new production line, which is different than the existing one that's been there for many years with very loyal customers, or they have very loyal customers. And then there's the last one, which is also a very high-tech manufacturing company, which is where some very where two engineers with very good ideas, they're presenting a new idea or a new way to go, and then you will see or read about how it's being received in the organization and try to understand why it's being received as it is and what you can recommend as future steps. So each case will have an organizational aspect where you can use the theories from contemporary management, and also a business-related issue where you can use the business model generation, and the link is the STAR model. You can see that in the end of the book, in business model generation, there's a STAR model, and that's where you have the note. So the link between the two books, that's the STAR model. Yeah. So when you have the group work, then the idea is that you learn to analyze a case, and basically it's relevant for all of you, I would expect, because you become managers, most of you are either team managers, project managers, within, 2 to 3 years after you graduate from here. So it's important to know how to understand a business case, an organizational case, where you have an issue. So we would like you to learn how to analyze a case and share your knowledge about either technology or your understanding across the theories and models. Of course, you prepare for the individual exam, and you also prepare for the challenge and the group report. So this is the idea. This is what we would like you to focus on in the afternoon between 1 and 5. Yeah. So you have the exercises, the case analysis, because we also have the multiple choice test. We've also decided together with the TAs that there should be some test questions, so you will learn or you will see types of examples, types of questions that you will also meet at the exam, so it's not like too big a surprise. Yeah. But of course, in order to make group work, I know that you're familiar with this through your studies, I guess most of you. But approaching or being at a part of a master's program, and you're going to graduate soon, and most of you will work in project groups when you're done at DTU. When you graduated, we would recommend that you actually take this seriously. That's why you form a contract in the end, no later than 12th of October, where you actually set up roles, and we're going to go through that in a minute, and align expectations. So please read the curriculum before, so you're actually prepared for your group work, and not just, what are we going to work with today? Consider when you do the analysis, which theories would you apply and why? And listen to the other students, maybe you can learn something from them. Yeah. And by listening, you also give the others a chance to talk and hear about what they have to say. We can see from what we've read in a lot of reports. We have this course, as you know, every semester, so we've read a lot of reports. We read around 80 reports every semester, so we've seen all kinds of solutions. And we know that you have different viewpoints on how a case is supposed to be analyzed. And we also hear about it, and we know that there could be issues in your group work. So try to respect that there are different viewpoints, and instead of emailing us saying, we disagree and I want to be separate, be in my own group because I can't work together with the others because I have a different viewpoint in this case and I think they're wrong, try to argue why you think this is correct based on what you read. It's not that we don't split groups, but try to respect different viewpoints and make a clear argument why you believe what you believe should be the correct solution to the problem. So make a clear argument based on theories, not on common sense. We had a picture of the heart, but it's not like the core of it. It should be together with theory. And organize your viewpoint even though they contradict. So see, okay, so how, if I have two different solutions to this or we disagree, how can we actually present them in a manner so they are logic, and then decide on what to work with. So make your conclusion clear. Why do you decide on one solution and not the other one? But respect for the others in the group is very important, and that means that you're prepared and that you argue for your point of view. So these are the 4 cases. I mentioned them before. They are like simple cases, but with very common problems and issues that you will meet in different types of organizations. And I would say they're all based on existing or real life cases that we have adapted. So, approaching the end this morning. In the afternoon, when you meet in 450, get back to that in a minute, we would like you to find a group and sit together with, and in a group you are 5 to 6 people, you're not 7 and you're not 4. You can maybe be that in the beginning, but when you make the contract you're either 5 or 6. So, describe your expectations. What do you actually want to gain from working with others? What do you want to gain from this course? Some of you might say, I'm only here because it's compulsory, I have to, but try to formulate, okay, what could I get out of it? What would I like to get? What type of learning process would I like to go through? So set your ambitions. What is the aim of your work here? So the others know that you would actually like to leave at 3 or you only aim for a 2. That's really important for your group members to know if you have different priorities than they have. Yes, talk about how you prefer to work, and so how can you actually make your group development work well. Type of roles, we can get back to that in a minute. The results, for example, in terms of mark, and try to make an understanding of what we are aiming at here. So you all agree on what type of report and how would you actually work together to prepare for the exam. Yes. We have 6 classes. We have the whole building in 450. There's no room that is big enough that we can all fit in. So we've tried to set it up so at the moment there should be a chair for everyone. So in class 1, there's room for 100 students. That will be in 6A and B. Class 2, they go to 105, that's on the first floor. Class 3, 106, A and B. Class 4, 11 and 12. And I'm going to come back to the engineering management class. 1112 and 111, 112, that's class 5. And then we have class 6 with 60 students, they are in room 5. And then we've decided this semester that we would like the engineering management students to be in one room together. Normally you've been split out across the classrooms, but this semester we would like you to team up in one classroom. And that's because our program has been evaluated, and one of the conclusions were that you were not familiar with, or you could feel lonely and you did not know who you were actually in the program with. So we will set up, so we organize this semester differently and have an engineering management class. If you are more than 80 students, then we will open up a second class for engineering management students. But for now, those of you who are part of engineering management program, you go to the rooms 11 and 12, where you will meet Marco and Maxi. Yeah? That's clear? So, I talked about a team contract. You're not supposed to make it today. You can make it today if you want to. If you know that you're going to be the group for the rest of the semester, you can make it today. For those of you who would like to mingle and find out where you fit in the best, then you have until October 12th to make a group contract. And the idea about the contract is that you align expectation and you set up roles in your group so you know how to respond if something occurs. So, yeah. You invest in a good teamwork, and it's a tool which can help you to formulate the rules of the game. So basically, do we always meet on Wednesdays at 1 and we are here until 5? Is it okay to leave early one afternoon? Is it okay not to be part of it and only team up in 2 weeks, etc.? Trying to make it work by formulating rules for your group and take it seriously. Yeah. So, are you going to have regular meetings, or are you going to stay home and sleep? You have deadlines, milestones, etc. It says post on project. It should say presentation, because there will be a presentation by the groups after a few weeks after the challenge, but we will get back to that one later on. But anyway, you have something to prepare for the companies before you hand in the report. So also have that in mind when you prepare. Look at the formal requirements, make agreement on, okay, can you cancel a meeting 2 minutes before it starts? Or do you need to do it in the morning? You know, people come late, lazy team members, can you kick them out? Or do you need to find ways to motivate your colleagues? How do you deal with conflicts? So try to use your existing experience based on earlier group work and see, okay, what is your preference and how would you like a good group work to be? So that means that we would encourage you to divide you, or to look at the different roles that you can have in a group. Will you change them? Will you keep them? Is it always the same person to take the minutes? Etc. So, yes. Respect the background and understand that this is a process, this is a social system that you're setting up, you're trying to organize a group, so how can you do it the best way? So basically you make a small, you can say, TEMO world. Yes. So, individual performance sums up to a collective project where you will get a mark in the end, but it's an individual mark, so remember that each part of the report should state who has done this and that. But still, it's a collective process where it all sums up. So these are things that you can think about, reflect upon in the afternoon. I won't go through it, but for those of you who would like to start the group process already today, you can do that. Yeah. Different types of people in group. How many of you have been tested, have had these personality tests? Yes, a few of you. Some of you are familiar with these different roles where you've been identified as a shaper or a coordinator. Yeah, I don't like the first one because it's a whip, and that's part of my identity or part of my profile when I'm being tested. Yes, so different roles have different titles. So go through this and try to talk about maybe the other in the group, they know you already. So how would they characterize you, or consider how do you see yourself? A shaper with the whip, the coordinator, the team worker, the resource investigator who can do the calls and look for new data and makes contacts. Are you the one that always has the new ideas? So you're the plant, or the one that monitors and analyzes and do the evaluations of the study that you're working with? Are you the one that always say, we need to be done with this part today because otherwise we will be late with the report when we hand it in? The implementer, who can actually change the ideas into practical tasks? Or are you the specialist that goes into nitty-gritty details and do all the comments and say, oh, we could also write it in this way? So just dedicated to one specific area. So take this as a tool that you can reflect upon. Who are you? How do you see your teammates? And it's not good to be 6 or 5 shapers in one group. So consider this. Yeah. Also 2 questions for you to work with in the afternoon. How can you make your teamwork easier? Reasons for working professionally with team and project work. This is not just something we say that is a good thing, it's nice to have. This is something that affects your mark. If you invested it, you also get something out of it. So, deadline October 12th, and you hand it in to your TA, the contract. Here's another example. So, here at the end, at 1 o'clock, you go to building 450, where you enter into the 6 classes. Engineering students, they will go to room 11 and 12, where they will meet Marco and Maxi. The rest of you just find a room, and it works like this. When the room is full, the door will be closed by the TA, and then you will need to find another room where there's an empty seat. And then you start from there, because then they need to register you on CampusNet in your class, etc. So the work, just a second, because the others can't hear in the other auditorium. When the door closes, the class is full. I can hear now that they're leaving. The class is full, and that's when you register for the class, and your TA will do that. So while waiting for getting registered, you can start working on your group development process. Yeah. Yes. I think that was it for now. I'll see you again next week in DTU Library at the stage in the middle. There will be 2 red chairs for our guests. So we meet you there next week. Please be quiet. And I would like to see our 2 feedback people down here now. And then we're open for questions afterwards. Yes? Thank you.